Game jams are a really fun way to stretch the brain. I have been lucky enough to judge a game jam in the past, and watching people use a theme in so many different ways really shows how creative people can be. Game Maker's Toolkit is a YouTube channel that is no stranger to many who watch videos on gaming topics, and every year they host a game jam in which Mark Brown follows up with a showcase of the games that stood out to him while reviewing the endless number of submissions. In 2021, the theme Join Together was used, and through the various amounts of interpretations there was a game called TetherGeist. Ending at number 10 based on popular vote, the developers decided to take their idea to turn it into a full-fledged game, and thus the journey began for both the developers as well as the protagonist. Developed and published by O&Co Games, TetherGeist follows the protagonist May, who is held back from a sacred tradition in her village due to a mysterious illness. Deciding not to wait another year to be a part of the ceremony, May sets out on foot to take the path that is usually done via spiritual methods. Along the way, she meets an outsider who is also seeking to make their way to the temple that May's people hold sacred. But it is up to you to help May on this challenging pilgrimage across a mystical world and master the powers of astral projection. Obviously, the main focus of a platforming game is the way you traverse the various levels or rooms that make up a level. But before I jump into that, I want to go over some of the things I noticed while playing. Firstly, the art is stunning. Levels look unique and distinct without ever losing key items like May, platforms, or the various nodes you need to collect in order to use a given power. The world building is done extremely well on top of that, which invites the player to explore areas like your home village, and it rewards you with not only some collectibles, but also a meta interaction regarding how many players will miss the interaction because the game doesn't specifically tell them to go there. I think the overall story is okay. There really isn't much in the demo outside of May having some mysterious illness that holds her from doing a ceremony her people hold as a sort of rite of passage. But it does feel like it's just going to end up being more of a generic story revolving around self-discovery, which isn't inherently bad, but it just does not seem as profound as some other indie games out there. Again, this could just be the limited access the demo provides, so take that with a grain of salt. I think the characters in the game have a ton of personality to them, and I think the alternate style for art for when they're in the cutscene is actually a neat touch in order to convey that message. One aspect that did start to rub me the wrong way was the text crawl. I felt like as a combination of each individual letter having a noise associated with it alongside the sentences being too long, it just kind of started to irritate me. I feel like maybe having the noises go word by word instead of having it go letter by letter, or finding a better speed at which the text crawl moves may alleviate that. This again could just be a personal preference, but it did end up irritating me enough that I felt like I had to mention it. But with all those notes out of the way, let's jump into the actual gameplay of TetherGeist. For the majority of the demo, you will utilize a pseudo-dash ability where you send out a spectral version of yourself that can go through various obstacles, and once you choose to, you will go to its location. Later on, you get a new ability in the second area that can allow you to either yeet yourself towards or away from a floating jellyfish thing. In principle, this is a really neat way of solving puzzles, and it takes a lot of practice to be good enough to grab all the collectibles on the level, which is showcased later on, as the orbs you choose dictate your next ability, making you have to think before you leap. But I did find that sometimes these abilities cause more frustration than what it should have. Sometimes the tether dash felt like it got hung up on some things, but really the problem I had was with the push and pull ability, as it seemed to be very out of your hands in comparison. Having a challenge in your game is great, but when it is a platformer that requires precision from the player, taking that aspect out of the player's hands can cause them to get frustrated to the point where I actually almost quit playing in one section that required me to do just the teeniest yoink, otherwise I'd die. This was for a collectible, which makes the challenge understandable, but I had no way of moving on given that the orb I needed was right where the collectible was, so I was kinda just stuck until I got the right touch, which just kinda soured my mood towards that experience. Overall, TetherGeist has a lot going for it. The art is beautiful, and the themes at the core help bring the characters to life. While the traversal mechanics are unique and challenging, I believe that some of the wonkiness on areas causes the game to feel a little bit frustrating at times, but I think the end results don't prevent the player from pushing forward through those potential hiccups. O&Co Games has a YouTube channel where they have actually documented their development journey. I would highly recommend checking them out, as they've actually provided a lot of insight into their design and decision-making processes. But with that, that'll be it for this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another. Shoutouts go to Relativity, Naughty Dog is King, Chaos, and Kamikolo, alongside all those subbed to the channel for their continued support. If you want to influence what videos I make, then head on over and join the Discord server where we also have a weekly game night, but either way, I will see you soon.